This is Tom from Veneficium, and you're listening to Heavy Mental Breakdown Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to Heavy Mental Breakdown, a podcast that breaks down song lyrics with the artist for a more in-depth look behind their meanings.
Sick. Thomas, dude, thank you so much for hanging out with me on a Monday night after WWE Raw. Sorry to take you from that, dude, but here we are talking music. Thank you, man.
No, thank you too, dude. Us, my buddies and we called it Easter Mania because
Easter Mania, I love it.
Great Easter Mania, bro. So yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So for anybody listening to this who doesn't know who Veneficium is, or who Thomas is, give us a little bit of a background on who you are and what kind of got you started in writing music.
So, my name is Tom. I am was part of Veneficium, which I'll explain later. I'm currently active in Fire of the Devil, black metal band. My new solo project, Hood, that's DSBM, depressive suicidal black metal. And then I'm in a new project that I really can't talk about right now because it's still in its infancy stages, but it's going to be a gothic doom metal project. And I'm looking forward to doing that in the near future. Anyway, when I grew up, I'm the youngest out of three brothers, and my brother Phil played drums, my little brother Ed played guitar, and I tried to be a drummer. I failed. Tried to be a guitarist. I failed. So the bass was, I guess, the next logical, thing to pick up, and somehow got by with that. But anyway, I digress.
Playing music is not easy, man.
No, it's not.
It is not easy. Throw me on a drum set and I'm like, what am I doing?
Well, it's insane. With If I Were the Devil, the first song we wrote as a band, this is like 10 plus years later, called Dawn of the Black Sun. I wrote that in high school, but where I lived at, not a lot of folks wanted to play black metal, death metal, more of the heavier things. It was about like 3 Days Grace or Breaking Benjamin or Disturbed, and my ear wasn't really kind of gravitating towards that. I wanted something a little more heavier, a little more, I guess, to the punch. For the topic of Beneficium, now to kind of skip forward, this is kind of like towards the end of COVID, and at that time, I was involved in a very, very heavy toxic relationship that I was hoping would have some reprieve or solace, but it didn't. And then with the weird added depression of the isolation, the kind of like the unknown, added with what was going on in my life, Veneficium was born, which was unfortunately fortunate in some ways.
Yeah.
During that time, I pretty much ended the relationship, but the individual was still living with me, and it was tough. You come home from a long day of work, and you walk in and you're living in essentially a carcass of what was supposed to be promising and romance, but you're emotionally not there. And I went to the bottle, a lot. Was smoking a lot of marijuana at the time, trying just to numb myself out, and to really kind of drive things home with the writing process. When things finally ended and she left, the next relationship I got involved in was actually 1,000 times worse, which helped finish the album in the long run of things, but led me to my, suicide attempt again and to the loony bin. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the only thing I do want to say to that is, you're definitely not alone in that one. I mean, dude, 2020 was just... I mean,
yeah.
just saying 2020 is enough, and people get it. But no, I mean, being isolated and being in, a space with somebody who, dude, because I was in the same situation. I was previously married, and during 2020 we were stuck in that apartment together, and that's when I realized, oh, this is not the person I thought it was. Who I thought it was, and it led to, you talk about it being a carcass of what could have been. And, I was married and we were in a one small bedroom apartment, and it was just every day was kind of hell. And not even hell, like not putting it all on her, but it's just when you're not getting along with somebody and confused, and like the whole world was. It's just you don't know what to do,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, it led to drinking and, like you said, a suicide attempt to ultimately end the bottle. Man, I think that a lot more people can relate to that than you know. It was a very heavy time, and I remember too I think it was the end of 2020 or early 2021. A lot of statistics just started coming out about how that year went, and the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the divorce rate, and like all that kind of stuff like blew up, and it became a widespread conversation, and a lot of people went through that. But ultimately, something somewhat positive came out of it in your music, and the other relationship came out. If there is a positive, it's you're able to finish the album, you're able to write more music, and so um, I mean, cheers for you doing that, man. I know it's tough to go through that hard side of it, but I think you're able to see a little bit past that and be like, I'm gonna work on shit during this time. I'm gonna work on music. I'm gonna distract myself from this, and this, and focus on this productive thing. And now you have music up on iTunes and Spotify, and you're doing your thing, man. And you've gotten out of those relationships, so now you can look back on it and just see that journey that you've been on. Do you mind if I ask kind of, where, mentally, where are you at when you look back at that time of your life? Of course it's still going to hurt and there's going to be pain there, but are you able to kind of separate it at least maybe a little bit because of the music that you were able to put out and help get you through that time?
Yes and no. So in December, that was the last Veneficium show, and that was it. There was a point in time, to make a long story short, where I debated about doing another album, but I don't know if you listen to the whole entire album by chance, outside from We Belong in Hell Together, but it was emotionally taxing. So the first three songs, well, technically the first three songs, We Belong in Hell Together, and then Suicide, were written during that toxic relationship that I was involved with. So it was supposed to be an EP originally. It was supposed to be those three songs, and that was it. But then Funerale Bizarro and Being in the Casket were the answer to the next relationship I got involved in that was more mentally taxing, and that resulted in me going to the loony bin and to get therapy. Will I say that bearing this project less like December at this point felt good? It did for sure. I can look back in some ways and feel like I buried this where I wanted to be at, but it sucks because I got and I'm very thankful. I'm very happy that people have reached out to me about the album, purchased it, and listened to it. And you get a great musician once you put an album out there. It's the people out there's album now. It's not yours anymore. I'm very happy that folks enjoyed it, but it was a very painful time. So, like for example, Suicide. That track, when I finished it, listened to it once. I have listened to it since. Just for more quick input on that, I when I did vocals on that track, I really wanted to push out what was happening in here. So I self mutilated doing the vocals during the recording process. I wanted to have that visceral, raw emotion put through that. And that's a track that I've been approached by a lot of people asking if I'm okay, I'm like, all right, if it's cool. And
Do you mind me asking what you mean by that when you say that you did self mutilation during that time? What do you mean by that?
I self harm. I felt it was what the track called for when I wrote it from the get go, and like instrumentally. So I had We Belong in Hell Together and Suicide. I had the awesome honor to have Susie Uzi from Black Road do female vocals for both tracks, and she was essentially the character in this story of death, and her portrayal of her vocals, at least during Suicide, was death tempting me to off myself. and I was trying to scream. I was trying to do just something, to really dial in what I wanted to do, but I felt I wasn't accomplishing it. So I ran up on the detail as far as what I did, but I pretty much told my producer Joey, hit record, and then what you hear on Suicide is me self-harming and really trying to dial in the pain I was feeling at the time, So yeah.
Do you feel that you write your best and you put out your best art when you're going through something heavy like that?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's dude, that's what's kind of really fucked up in some ways. I'm an addict of pain. I mean, what's funny is like there's booze, there's weed, but I'm an addict of pain. Pain to me is what, not to sound corny, like drives me. I feel that pain in a very creative sense is what really fuels my art, my creativity. And that's a horrible thing to be an addict of, because you're trying to seek out different things in life to make you negative. I mean, during that time, I'll listen to Typo Negative's World Coming Down, which, if you're not familiar with that album, that was like Peter Steele's lowest depressive album he ever written in his life. And then I was very involved in DSBM, the genre. Listen a lot of a lot of like Disaster, Leviathan, a lot of those really depressive, suicidal black metal bands, because I couldn't escape the want for pain. I wanted to feel pain. I wanted to be sad. I wanted to feel like I wanted to kill myself, because what was going on in my life. So, to answer your question, it was an addiction to pain that I needed to have just to write music, you know?
Have you ever tried writing music when you weren't in that mind space?
So funny enough, my new project Hood that'll be coming out in the near future. Now I guess recovered, or after seeking therapy and stuff like that, I can do it and feel accomplished for sure. But it's very odd because I feel there's still a piece missing with my writing. And I know honestly that it's just that addiction, the pain that I want to feel. But obviously I know that's a horrible, horrible thing to fucking do, trying to create and write, because if you do it all the time, in my opinion, and you do it perpetually, you're gonna end up in a horrible spot,
Yeah. So you talked about that you seek therapy before. Has that helped?
Yeah.
Has that helped in this
Oh
process
yeah.
at all? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Oh yeah. I don't want to throw her name out there just for her profession, but she, as well as Bonnie and Dave. But I had a core group that outside of my therapist that helped me out of it, because during We Belong in Hell Together, the song in the showcase tonight, that was the song about the toxic relationships I was involved in, and me kind of writing this dark narrative sonic experience with the lyrics very simplistic, mind you, but forward. And at the time with therapy, I was trying to find the words to put towards that song. I was asking my therapist, asking Bonnie, asking my other people, like, do I have to make this poetic? Do I have to make this grandiose thing, or can I just write some raw shit and then put it out there and pardon me, say fuck it, dude?
Yeah.
So my therapist, just as well as everybody else in my core group, was a big help with getting it out there.
Yeah. I feel a lot of times we might discourage ourselves from writing music because of something that you just said, and it's oh, does it rhyme? Does it need to be grandiose? Does it need to be this? Does it need to be that? And when it comes to art, there's in my opinion, there's literally no rules to art. To art. There's just not. And the fact that you said that you were self-harming during one of your songs to get that real emotion out, that's heavy, man. That's heavy, because a lot of artists feel the way that you do, in the sense that if I'm not going through something, first off, who am I? I don't even know who that person is. Not even talking about creating stuff, just who is that person? And it's okay, going through this, I'm gonna take it out on writing, but to be able to kind of step away from that, I feel a lot of people have that's where a disconnect comes. But you talk about actually self-harming during the process, so this is a very raw album for you.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever done anything this raw before, or
No, and that's what's
no?
kind of really, again, part of my French up with the transition from leaving that relationship, going to another one, and then I'm already involved in deep my abuse with substances and growing that addiction to pain more and more. It became a part of my lifestyle, and I had it well for a little while. You know, you can hide that kind of shit amongst your friends and your peers, but eventually they're going to know something's up.
Yeah.
Something's kind of coming out of this. And so with the track Suicide and then figuring out a Bizarro and Beating in the Casket, the last track of the album, every time I left the studio, I would go home, take my belt, and then whip my back because I felt, as much to go back earlier, I'm pulling out this emotion of what I'm feeling and the rawness of the heaviness I was feeling. But you're putting out your demons in a recording studio. You are literally pulling out this part of you that you don't show to anybody else. You don't show to folks because you don't want to be looked at sideways or looked at differently. And though I felt my first time writing a solo album and having only a few musicians help me out writing things with this, and then you're actually hearing it and seeing it come to life, it scared the shit out of me, man. Like I literally would go home with myself and then drink. So it was a really weird like dynamic of I'm happy this is going on, but while it's being recorded and written, et cetera, it just scared me in some ways.
The actual writing of the lyrics, how did that work for you? Was it is it kind of still just all the same?
So there's actually some fun like horror kind of element to it. So I'm a huge fan of Universal horror monsters like Carlos Frankenstein, Lugosi's Dracula.
I see those masks
Get the
behind you,
back,
man. I
back.
see, I see, I see Creature, Frankenstein, Michael Myers,
Yeah,
Jason.
I have a bunch of my other room upstairs too, dude. But
Hell
I
yeah,
was heavily like as a kid, those were my guys. It was
yeah.
my, most kids would have been kind of horrified, I think, around that time watching that. But I identified with them, and with the title track "We Belong in Hell Together" for that song, it was inspired by Bride of Frankenstein. That's my favorite fucking movie of all time, dude.
Really? Okay,
Yeah,
cool, cool.
yes. So where it came from, the inspiration for that title, at the end of the film, you have Karloff, Frankenstein's monster, holding the handle of the switch, and you have Elsa Lanchester, babe, standing right there as a new monster. Then
Yeah,
Dr. Pretorius, and Karloff says, "We belong dead." Because the whole point of the film is he wanted to mate. He wanted somebody who understood him, kind of welcomed him with open arms with the way he looks, the way he feels. But even when he had the perfect mate made for him, she rejects him, and that destroys him. So he has to, blow him the switch, and everything dies. But I kind of tweaked the words "we belong in hell together"
yeah.
as a homage to there, but also I felt it was a good, strong song title to express the really hard intricacies and details of trying to figure out how to make a relationship survive, but it's already dead, you know?
Yeah, I've always been a huge horror fan, and I love the connection between rock and roll and metal and mental health and some of the darker thoughts on and how horror movies kind of bring these types of people together.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like there definitely is a huge connection there, and one of the reasons why I love so Frankenstein's my favorite monster movie of all
Hell
time.
yeah, brother.
Yeah,
It's
I
uncommon.
love Frankenstein, and part and part of the reason is because I even watching it as a kid, I was never scared of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt really bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this guy's done nothing. Like he didn't even ask to be here. Like they like made him and forced him into life, and now he's alone trying to figure out what to do next. And
Yeah,
I feel like that's almost all of us. All of us, like, we're not asked to be here. Fortunately we are, but we're kind of like little Frankensteins on our own, like
we are, dude.
we're made, and then we become adults, and we need to figure this stuff out, and it's not easy. And you have Frankenstein running away from all these people just because of the way he looks. I
Mhm.
mean, there's other things too. He threw a little girl
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
leg.
It's the
They
church didn't like that
did.
scene, but I'll tell you what, man.
But take that out of it, and it's they see him as, oh, he looks this way, he dresses this way, or this is a monster. And I think a lot of people can look at people in the metal scene or in the horror scene and see them as monsters too, or scary people they can't approach. But honestly, whenever I go to horror conventions, I mean, I make friends with the nicest people I've ever met.
Of course.
And I think we all kind of connect that way, and it becomes like a huge part of our life. So we find this community that gets us and we feel comfortable in. And I think it's a great thing, dude. And I love that you're able to find friends in this community that were there for you, because that's who we are. Like, we get it. And you talk about your pain, depression, suicidal thoughts. I'm like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think in this group, I hate to say that it's common, but a lot of us kind of do deal with a lot of mental health issues, and we're there for each other, and it's a great thing, dude.
Of
So
course.
that's great that you had the friends in your corner, like our good friend Bonnie and David, and they're able to help you. Shout out to David and Bonnie, I love you guys.
Yeah, yeah, let's say
Um,
shout out to them, Bonnie guys. Follow them, dude. Fuck yeah, good folks, good people. So
this episode is sponsored by Death and Body Works.
hell yeah,
Uh,
dude. Fuck that shit, man. Fuck that
Go
shit,
check them out. It's a great little horror company based
yeah.
out of Chicago. But cool, man. Well, thank you for all that backstory. Before we jump into this song and we break down the lyrics, I know you've kind of already given kind of a big background on the song, but is there anything else that you want to say before we break it down?
Yeah, so again, during this time, I was listening to a lot of Typo Negative, World Coming Down, Funerals, Ashen Era, and like old gothic doom metal from the 90s. And at the time,
Oh,
too, I was more involved watching a lot of like 90s horror, or 2000s horror. So a lot of the inspiration for like sonically speaking came from, Typo, Funerals, and a lot of those old bands. And I felt it was like, as odd as it sounds, though the lyrics are simplistic and kind of straightforward, the instruments, I kind of wanted to have it, be like opening song for a horror movie to kind of be played, and even the end too. And I feel that was where I delivered it best, outside from just, pulling out the raw emotions. But I wanted to hear what my take on opening to a horror movie would sound like and that kind of shit. So yeah.
hell yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I noticed that it's a pretty long song on Spotify. It's listed as 6 minutes and 31 seconds.
Well, it would have been
Um,
longer. So, fun fact: during the recording process, I had a sample. Have you ever seen Devil's Advocate before, or no?
yeah.
So, the opening track was supposed to be actually like a 10-minute track with Al Pacino's speech about God.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it leads into the that track. So it definitely is a long burn, slow burn, if you will. But I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me loving riding the riff, or gooding, not gooding, but listening to just a good riff right out. Yeah, I'm a whore for it in some ways.
Nice. So I know you already said your favorite movie was Bride of Frankenstein, but for this song and this opening, was there anything that you listened to that inspired the actual music of this one? Was it also Bride of Frankenstein? I know the lyrics and the name of it is, but the actual music itself, what was that inspired by?
So it was part Bride of, so it's kind of three parts, part Bride, Devil's Advocate, then Lugosi's Dracula. How I like,
Very cool.
yeah, like it was kind of weird how I envisioned, a movie about romancing the darkness and romancing wanting this, being individual to love you. How would it sound? But have a more macabre, slightly, eerie tone to it. So those three inspired me, and then being a huge comic book nerd, because that's a lifestyle.
Totally.
I was inspired at that time a lot of by Daredevil. I've reading the Born Again series there too, and there's a couple scenes that are pretty grim and dark that kind of really drove a narrative. So I really can't say Bride was the inspiration. I kind of pulled multiple sources into one, but I felt with this, it kind of really, if anything, gave me the vibe of maybe like a vampire film, like Interview with the Vampire or something like that, you know?
Hell yeah.
Really quick, I want to do a quick shout out to Mark, brother Phil, Susie Uzi, and Chris for helping me put this together. I read all the music on my tablet and by myself, but I had them be session musicians to make it come to life and give them creative freedom to do what they wanted to do. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for helping me make this come to life in the most horrible way possible.
Hell yeah. Shout out to them. This is We Belong in Hell off of the I Suicide EP by Veneficium. Let's break it down. All right, I'm going to stop it there because now we're about to get into lyrics, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that opening, so that's the first 2.5 almost minutes. It almost feel like it's taking you through a journey because it kind of starts off a little not mellow, but da 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 da. So you're kind of feeling it, and then the guitar comes in, bang. So that comes in, and then I feel like there's almost a break from that where it kind of slows down, and then we hear you kind of come in with some vocals. And then it gets heavy again with the screams. Do you want to at all break down where your mindset was? Those.
Of course. So the opening for that, again, I have to repeat myself because I don't want to just like a selfish asshole without giving credit. But Typo Negative and a lot of the doom metal bands I much listened to, like Funerals, even Hangman's Share, which those guys, check those out. Those guys out there are amazing. And they're like depressive doom, and those guys deserve a better, bigger platform than they already have right now. But I digress.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Before you brought it up in this interview a while ago, depressive doom, I hadn't heard of that before.
Yeah, man.
Is that is that
There's a
something?
whole.
Is that
So
like a new kind of
it's been on for a while,
genre? It's
dude.
been on for a while. Okay, I haven't heard that yet.
Kind of like
Depressive
uh,
doom.
funeral doom, depressive doom, or black metal, depressive suicidal black metal. It's
Yeah, you
mind
said that one
you,
earlier too. Yeah.
there's the cliche of metalheads. There's always some subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre. It's
There is.
so fucking true. But
It's hard to keep track of all the subgenres these days.
yeah, man.
Yeah, but they all serve a purpose though.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
dude, for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
That's where with the type of negative, World Coming Down, I would consider more of a depressive doom metal album than their known gothic metal influence. But with that opening riff, after the Devil's Advocate speech happens and it goes into that, the mentality I had writing that opening riff was open the door into an individual's chaotic hell, or in this case, my hell, and let's get our foot kind of wet or burning in this case to see what's inside. And I feel like like you're trying to find a hope, you're trying to find some sort of like glimpse of like happiness, but it's always being engulfed and succumbed by turmoil and anguish. And Mark, dude, again, props to him for the overlay guitar. I told him I want it very typo-y, but make it your own. I want you to kind of express yourself in the strings. And the whole representation of that part was to finally have the flames rise, and you're like, I guess the listener kind of really be unsettled because you really hear repetitive riff happening over and over, but then this happens and you're like, okay, other layers being involved.
Yeah, because then we start to hear you kind of go,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, who is that?
Yeah, that's
And
Susie.
why is it sounding so haunting?
Yeah, dude. Susie Uzi from Black Road, and I'll get that a little bit, but that was her just doing a warm up track, and I'm like, keep that, because that to me was a good like, okay, we hear some female leads. What's happening right now? It's kind of haunting.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we've only cracked the surface here. We've still got a while to go, so I'm gonna backtrack this a little bit,
Okay,
and we'll continue. Cool. Loving it so far, dude. This rip for sure.
thank you.
Verse 1. Here we go.
So,
She, her lustful, vain eyes, forked tongue, dragged on flesh, breathing with sin, bleeding my skin. Break that down for us, dude.
so warning and trigger warning to folks that are sensitive to cutting or self harm, but that was all written after a night where this individual did something really, really heavy. And I mean heavy by there was a lot of betrayal of trust, not cheating, but there was an action that happened. And when you're kind of involved in a relationship, more than a year or two, you think you have an idea of somebody, and then you see this different side. The facade drops.
Yeah, I've been there, man. I get it.
Yeah, you're kind of taken back because you're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And mind you, at the time, for me, I was no better. I was definitely, for I guess more technical terms, was a anxious attachment style, kind of depending on others to rely on my happiness instead of doing it myself. And at the time too, there was other events that were making me more isolated outside from COVID. Like Morgan's gonna make me isolated, and I was very silent during it. So I will, atone for my sins, or all my sins, I should say. But she did something that night, and I recall she went to bed, and then we had a spare room, and I played that riff in my head, and I ended up feeling very helpless and worthless. I couldn't fix things because I knew internally this was dead, even before I, put the nail on the cross, so to say. And it destroyed me. So I was feeling very numb. I grabbed a razor blade, and I hate to sound like I was educated about it because I wasn't, but I cut my inner thighs open. And when I was kind of playing that riff in my head, she, her lustful, vain eyes, was that first lyric that really kind of defined the track, because you look at somebody that seems innocent, and look at somebody that you feel is your better half, but it's not. And then the fork tug drank out flesh, there was,
It almost sounds demonic in a way.
yeah, that's what's kind of the whole point was. It was a lyrics that were broken down to where you fell in love with a demon, essentially, that just doesn't want the best for you. And
Yeah.
with breathing
And
with,
is probably actually against you.
yeah, oh yeah, dude. I mean, I can wear
Yeah.
the whole, idea of love and brutality and metal and horror movies, whatever, but I felt I was facing the embodiment of a demon, which
Yeah.
plays more into the concept of the album. But breathing with
Dude,
sin,
oof.
yeah,
I wish I can show you. They probably won't show here on Zoom, but I got chills when you said that, man. I mean, so, one thing that I don't really talk about too much, but it reminds me what you said. I feel, like I said, I was in a relationship, in a marriage, and we were together for 14 years.
wow,
And
damn,
yeah, but I didn't really notice. I didn't realize who I was really with until COVID. The doors shut, windows closed, and you can't do anything, and you're stuck together.
yep,
The mask fell. The mask started to slip and slip, and as it went on, it just got worse and worse. And ultimately, it was a huge betrayal at the end. But after that, I realized, I'm like, dude, evil fucking exists, and this is it. Like, unless you've gone through an extremely toxic relationship, and it doesn't even have to be romantic. It could be a friendship, mother,
yeah,
family, whatever. Unless you go through something where you literally love someone with all your heart and you put everything into it, and then to find out later on that that's not who you really thought it was, you feel manipulated, you feel like you've been lied to, you feel like this whole world is kind of a facade, and it kind of leads to some PTSD where, like, you don't trust people, and you go through this whole kind of awakening process, and it starts off kind of bad in my opinion, but as you grow from it and learn from it, you kind of can start to see those kind of characteristics throughout your entire life,
yeah,
and it
man,
kind of makes you a better person in a way. It's like, I would never do this to someone. I would never want to do this to someone. And so, lustful, vain eyes, forked tongue, bleeding my skin. And I like that you said bleeding your skin.
yeah,
It's like it almost seems like it was something intentional
oh yeah,
that was done to you on purpose.
yeah. That was. I'm not trying to bring light to the situation. There was no physical abuse, but
It
the
doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it was all mental.
yeah, this was all mental. That's where I
Yeah.
felt the numbness during that like opening, lyrics. I just remember like I just cut myself my inner thigh, man, and I'm sitting there like, well, fuck, that was a dumb idea. But I felt like
You just wanted to feel something.
yeah, exactly, dude,
Yeah.
something, and I realized that was kind of the tipping point, even though I could have stopped it in the long run, that I'm going down a path of more of an addiction to pain. So,
Yeah, man, I feel that a lot of us, including myself, went through a very difficult journey in 2020, and not even just that year. For me at least too, like, it dragged on for. That was the start of it. That was
yeah,
just the
same
start
here.
of it. And that's when the mask started to drop, and I started to see who I was really with, And that first verse hits me. It does. And then we belong in hell together. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of already have explained that, but is there any other context you want to put that in?
Oh yeah, for sure. That it's again straightforward. If I was going to the mentality I had at that point, well, I guess we're both going to be here, and we belong in hell together. We
Yeah.
belong in this hell. Our my hell, that person's hell, and this is my life. You know.
This place we built together, we need to stay together.
Yeah,
And it feels like hell.
yeah. And that's where I felt
Yeah.
there was an unfortunate acceptance of wanting that. No one should ever be complacent in the misery. No one should ever be complacent in a position where you feel there's no way out. There's always a way out, and it's hard.
Yeah, but
It's
it's I was
hard.
just gonna say, dude, it's so hard because we find comfort in the pain.
No, of course, absolutely.
And it's if we're not feeling that, then we don't know what we're supposed to be feeling. I am the biggest self-sabotager because when things start feeling good, I'm like, okay, hold on a minute, pause.
Yeah.
What bad is gonna come out of this? Like I can never just take a good thing for a good thing.
Oh, I know.
And it's all part of what we're talking about. It's okay, I can end this relationship, I can leave, but that's not going to fix my depression either. And I love this person, but I'm not happy. What do I do?
Exactly.
And so but you stay because it's comfortable and it's easier to kind of sit with the pain and deal with it and write lyrics or write scripts or like what I was doing. It's easier to do that. It's harder to let go of it and walk away from it and separate yourself. And so
Yeah.
that pain is so familiar to us. But it's not a good thing.
No, it's not, dude. It's
not a good thing.
As an advocate of somebody, I align myself with Satanism, if you will. But the whole point of me saying that is because at the end of the day, you have to find sort of peace in yourself and peace in the skin you're in. At that time, there was no peace. There was no hope, which it sounds so minuscule to say that. But if you don't have like some sort of hope day to day, your days become this repetitiveness and cycle of violence internally that there is no way out except just, well, I'm here, I exist, I live in this place, and tomorrow's a new day, right? But it's not the mentality of that,
Yeah, but a positive though is for you, it wasn't the same thing every day. You fucking went to a notebook and you wrote down lyrics and you grabbed some, people close to you to help you make this happen, and you did something about it.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
dope. That's dope. That's dope, dude. Really
appreciate that, brother.
All right, let's keep rocking out.
Cool.
I love the emphasis on together there.
Susie did a great job. Like I again, I'm still, when she came over that day, and my hat's off to her. She just got over COVID. And she, I was kind of telling her, if you can't come out, don't worry about it. But she came out the trooper, and I gave her very little direction. So that part, it's the individual speaking, we belong in hell together, and then the female saying that, or the other person, we belong in hell together, kind of like combining, well, here we are. And Susie nailed that shit to the T, dude.
It's the bride and it's Frankenstein. But there's belong, there's hell, but the word that she decided to sing with you was together. And I feel that that's pretty powerful right there.
It is, dude. All right.
Tainted, tainted heart, feel unclean. I beg for release. Your chains, all I know, locked inside hell. Break that down for us.
So after I made the step to end things, we were still living together, still in the same place, and this one I rather not go into detail about, but I guess to provide some sort of context to it. There's a
Yeah,
certain
only discuss what you feel comfortable discussing, man.
yeah. I appreciate that, but there was a certain event that happened. Maybe it was a last ditch effort to save what was dead. And I guess as a human, when there's a big change happening, you're trying to save what was there to try and maintain some sort of knowing or remembrance of what was. You act irrationally. The human, you can say the same too, man. Like when the human's put in like a really hard spot, when there's going to be change soon, there's a lot of really sporadic behavior that can come out of it that's really disturbing in some ways. And with its hate and heart feel unclean, that's when I started to dive deeper into a lot more self-harm while just trying to get this individual out of my life. So I know at least the first step to at least I guess some sort of recovery is to move past what was there. And an event happened that made me write those because you're in a position where you feel well, your chains already wrapped around me. Still, you're still here. If I resist you, there are consequences. And there was no way to really express that to somebody at the time. So I begged for release was a release from this individual being gone, not dying, just being out of my life forever, freeing myself from the chains, and then being locked inside the hell with no chance of getting out. And I apologize for the very vague broadness of the explanation, but that was kind of the heaviest part of the lyrics for the song.
Oh, that verse right there was the heaviest part.
Yeah.
So I hear I beg for release, and your chains is all I know, and locked inside hell. Yeah, man, these are heavy lyrics here.
Yeah.
Taint, tainted heart, feel unclean. I beg for release. Just like you said, like I don't. All I want is to not feel this way anymore. Really, I beg for release, and it's everything. It's not just one thing. It's just like I have to release this so I can let go and move on. But it's hard because these chains are wrapped around, so it's all that I know, and it's having to leave behind everything that you know and everything that you thought and all the goals you had in this relationship and all the plans and the excitement, like all that, all of a sudden it's locked inside this hell, and it's not what you thought it was, and you want that release, but it's hard because you're chained down, and it's that balancing act of, okay, let me try to see this person's side of it. What am I doing? But also, I'm feeling this way, and I don't like feeling this way. I'm feeling like I'm locked and chained, but I don't want to let you go yet. And it's this internal battle that kind of just goes around and around and around. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
no, dude, I was there, man. I get it. It's hard.
and that's where, like, with those certain lyrics, and even before the one I'm discussing right now, in the past, I want to like always say right now, it's never okay to put your hand to somebody. It's never okay to force touch. It's never okay to do that. Obviously with consent. I've been through plenty of relationships in my past early 20s up until in recent years, that if I guess that feeling the rise, walk away, do what you can. It's never right. And then feeling unclean, that part was about myself, because what I'll say about that night, I took a shower that night, dude, and I couldn't wash away this feeling of dirtiness. So that was what's funny. It's not funny at all, but with the feeling unclean, and I'll come out and say this, that shower that night, it was more about trying to wipe off the mental grape. I'll say that. that happened that night that I recall I had rashes on my arms. I had like this loofah, whatever, and I was trying to wipe myself off, dude, after this certain event, and I felt like I in some weird light, I guess, religious guilt, if you will. Like I'm not clean right now.
Are you also at all talking about you were drinking a lot, right, during that time?
Yeah, yeah.
So can clean also unclean? Could that also be reference to the drinking aspect, or was that something completely different?
That was all the same. So it was abandoning the addiction and drinking.
Yeah, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want
Yeah,
to rely on this anymore. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. I don't want to feel chained up. I don't want to be in hell anymore. Just like get me the out of this
yeah,
place.
dude. And
I get it.
there's a certain like level, gravity kind of defining level of depression and sadness that I'll fully admit faults here. That when I was younger, like, why would you go to a bottle, talk to somebody like it was like some easy like solution? But I guess the irony is became that person. You know, I became that individual because I felt that it was the only way for me to shut down my brain, shut down everything rolled around me. Because
you just wanted to feel numb, man.
yeah, exactly.
You didn't want to feel that hell anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know, we can look at these things, and when you look at the big picture of it, how people view, and I'm not saying you're an alcoholic or anything, but you know, people view drinking or alcoholism as, you know, a weakness or whatever. But it's just, you know, when you want to just not feel so bad, you kind of just do what you need to do, and I'm not at all saying that's a good thing, but it's just when you're in that place,
Yeah.
it's kind of where your mind goes. And you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast is because when I was in that place, a lot of times I would just listen to my favorite songs and my favorite music and feel normal and feel like, okay, I'm not the only one that goes through this. This is helping me in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm stronger than this, but I kind of don't want to be right now. You know, like I kind of want to get these emotions out, because when I would start drinking, all the emotions would just come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never let that come out when I wasn't drinking. And so it led to just like not feeling so much, but also letting emotion out. So it's a weird place to be in.
Well, dude, that's why I wanted to mention earlier when we talked. The power of music is a great thing. I fully believe that there is some sort of sonic experience. You pop your headphones in and get some reprieve from the madness and the chaos. But also, too, I guess it's a warning to people out there: when you're in the thick of things, music is great, but you got to be careful. Well, coming down, the track that got me the most was the title track, "Roll Coming Down" on Temple Negative. You can feel the hurt in Peter Steele's voice. You can feel the emotion behind it. And
well, I'll tell you what, dude, you can feel it in your voice right now too. And, well, not right now, but
yeah,
in this song, yeah, you can feel it, and that's why music is so strong, man.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. Let's keep rocking out to this, because I like this song a lot.
Thank you.
I want to keep listening to it. Inside. So this last verse goes: breathing, bleeding, distort, nothing, cold to the bone, I feel nothing.
Yeah. For context of that, at the time, that's where everybody out in the world listening to this or watching this when it comes out, have a core group of people that you trust and talk to. Have receipts too. That's my big thing. Have receipts, but it's very weird how when somebody puts their foot down to to end a toxic relationship and has, the ability and the power to do that, that other individuals will latch onto the negatives and the things said about you that really they have no idea what happened. They weren't in those four walls. They weren't, there to experience what happened. So breathing, bleeding references towards I'm already beaten, I'm defeated. This romance, this love is dead. Distort nothing is a reference to how individuals will distort perceptions, distort stories, but then will not provide proper context and will not provide proper means to explain what happened. Obviously, anyone can say there's part A, part B, and part C, as in this person's side's in the truth. And there's a lot of distortion and really a lot of things hanging in the air at the time that were very demeaning, diminishing of myself. And when you realize a person has no problem saying some really horrific shit to you behind closed doors, really degrading things, really, I say this in a very strong way, but bottom of the barrel comments. Yeah. It also distorts yourself in the mirror. It distorts who you see every day in the mirror, dude. And 100%. You kind of lose your identity in some ways and forget that, I'm Tom, but you're like, who is Tom? Like, who was this individual before this happened? And I feel nothing's a reference to going to the pain, part of things where, the numbness was inconsistent day to day after that.
Do you ever look back at who you were as a person before that relationship, who you were in that relationship, and who you were after that relationship? Do you ever do that evaluation?
Yeah. Self-reflection, I feel, is a really powerful tool that I feel everyone needs to have to progress. And mind you, did I gain better information about what I seek in love and where, I need to start being better about having more boundaries for myself? Absolutely. And develop those healthy coping mechanisms when, certain situations go down, that you can find a means to move past it. But what was horrible about that, and I've mentioned it a few times, is that after that was said and done, not too long after that, I hopped into another really bad, again, if not worse, relationship that distorted that too. So what's really kind of not up. So I'm not dead, which is a good thing. But I didn't really have...
Great thing.
Yes, thank you. I didn't really have the time to reflect on anything until maybe, I'm not exaggerating here, maybe the tail end of last year. That's where I kind of had time where I had more comfort and more grasp onto looking back and, okay, I was here, and I sought help. I checked myself into a loony bin or mental institution. I shouldn't say loony bin.
I was just going to say, you've referred to that a couple times, and I know people like to refer to that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that.
Honestly, you shouldn't, because I don't want you to make your situation feel like it was a joke or less than what it was. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. After my attempt, I ended up there too, man.
Yeah.
I ended up there too, and I personally went through a very kind of spiritual awakening, I'll call it, after I left there. I didn't date. I didn't want any of that. I was just like, you know what? I am going to sit here in this pain and discomfort, and I'm going to get through this the most difficult way that I know. And that's
Same here, man.
And that's looking at my fucking self in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's knowing, and kind of going back to what you said, like having boundaries, knowing your worth, knowing what you want out of a relationship, knowing what you don't want out of a relationship, and knowing what you just want out of life. Because when you go through that too, I started traveling. Like, I traveled all over the place. I went to London. You know, like I went abroad, and I'm just like, oh my god, life is awesome, and I didn't even know that it was awesome outside of this relationship. You know, because I felt like I was so contained in it, and everything needed to involve both of us and us. And as soon as I started to, and it took a while to get there. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
it took a while to get to a place where I felt like I was deserving of a vacation by myself, or just something for myself. But once I got there, I'm like, oh wow, life could be dope. And if I had someone on the same page as me, man, this world could be great. And that's when I started to realize what my boundaries were, where I was in life, what I wanted out of life. And it, you know, as painful as it was, I'm really glad I went through that because
Hmm.
I learned a lot about myself through that. And I wouldn't trade it. I would much rather have gone through that than stayed.
Dude, and first of all, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
It's very refreshing to hear that somebody else kind of had the same mentality of going through it as I did. Because when things finally, when the eye of the storm came through, and then everything, became chaotic, I did the same thing. Sought the help, started to speak out more to peers and loved ones, and
Yeah.
just like you, man, I'm like, you know what? I can't just run from this shit anymore. I
Yeah.
can't run
Yeah.
from myself or the past or the trauma. Like, we need to address this. We need to actually like sit down and think about things,
Yeah.
and not just pretend that it doesn't exist, that it's not there. It's very much there. It's in your face, but I mean, at least in my case, have been too terrified to address it.
Yeah, but you did though, right? You went,
Yes. Oh
you
yeah.
went,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and you know what? As painful as our experiences are, imagine the people that haven't gone through this experience yet. The people who are older than us, or have been in a relationship longer than us, and like their whole life is spent with somebody they're not happy with, or someone that they feel like isn't treating them well. Like I'm just happy that you and I have been able to get to a place where we've seen what we don't want,
Yeah.
and now we know what we want and what our value is and what our worth is.
Yeah, man.
And that's the most important part that comes out of all of this. Like, yeah, the music's great, you know, like I'm happy that you had that outlet to be able to express that. But I think ultimately the biggest and greatest part of what you went through is how your outlook on life is now,
Yes.
and your outlook on your own needs are now. That is what the strength is, and that's where, if you can see any, light out of the bad, out of the bad, it's that, it's that.
Yeah, man. And that's where I feel that nowadays I have more of a identity of self.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't feel like I'm pressured anymore to engage in conversations that I want to be involved in. I'm not
Hell yeah.
pressured to try to put myself in situations I don't want to be in anymore, because
Hell
that's
yeah.
not fair to myself, but
Yeah.
also that's not fair to the progression, the progress I made, up until this point. And I don't want to regress. I don't want to go back to where I was, and the person that I was back then. Going off your point, yeah, I've learned a lot, and learned to really look at my demons, so to say, in the face and
Yeah.
conquer them. But also, at the end of the day, for simplicity sake, I'm okay waking up in the morning now. I'm not,
That's
sitting
amazing, man. That's
there
amazing.
and dreading the day. Like, okay, the
Hell
today
yeah.
may suck, but there are some good things that could happen throughout the day that can make, going home better.
Yeah. Life is fucking hard.
Hmm.
There's never going to be a year that you go through where it's like, this year was perfect. This year I didn't deal with anything. This year everything went perfect. Like that
Yeah.
does not exist. You know? And so now that you've gone through this, like, life is not perfect. People can put on masks. People can lie to you. People can make it seem like they care about you and they want the best for you when, their true intentions are not this or that. But ultimately, we love horror movies, we love all this darkness, but honestly, the thing that's most metal out of all of this is finding yourself and
Yeah.
knowing your own fucking worth, dude. There's nothing more metal than that.
I couldn't
It
agree
really
more.
isn't. And then you can listen to these songs and be like, "Oh, I'm so happy I'm not there anymore."
Exactly, dude. Exactly, man. Like, dude, straight to the point.
like you are your own inspiration at that point, where you're like, "I don't want to go back there."
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do my hardest to not write this again. I'm gonna do my hardest to not have to feel like I need to cut myself in order to be happy, or in order to feel something, or in order to do this or that or that. No, because you've gone through the darkness of the soul, they call it. You know, you've gone through the bad relationships, and I mean, you've learned so
Mhm.
much during this process. And it's like, okay, now this is here forever. This song is here forever. These lyrics are here forever. I'm going to use these lyrics in my art in order to like connect with people and tell my story and how I got through it, because it is possible to get
Mhm.
those nights where we just wanted to end it. We felt like there was no way out of it, but we're both living proof that there is.
Yeah, dude. And it's a really, I still find it weird in some ways because you can kind of see in media and movies and that kind of thing this, I don't want to say glamorized perspective of what
No,
depression is.
it totally is.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So depressed perspective, but the real rawness and the hardcore sitting in a dark room at 1 in the morning,
Yeah,
but you don't show that a lot, and
no,
they don't really have a grasp, if you will, of what that feels like.
yeah. Well, there's more I want to talk to you about, but the song's not over yet.
Yeah, yeah, we're getting towards the tail end, so
Yeah,
let's
tail end of the
go
song.
together,
So
brother.
yeah, let's play this out. That is "We Belong in Hell Together" by Veneficium, and written here by Tom. And man, that was a pretty heavy track, dude.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to close it out where you mentioned the journey earlier, which is a perfect I guess perspective and visual. But you hear the drums kind of playing, and you're
Yeah,
walking.
I was gonna say it almost sounds like a march, almost
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
totally.
march into something. Or I was gonna ask you about that, why you ended on like some solo drums there.
So it was funny. That wasn't supposed to be involved in the track, but the day I had my singer from Fire with the Devil, Chris, come and do backing vocals for Beneath the Casket, we were throwing out ideas, and I felt that We Belong needed like a really like ominous ending. And with the track kind of having like a journey feel to it, I felt, all right, I had my producer Joey put out a bass drum at the tom, and then I started to bang like more drums, if you will, because now that track is getting you into now the thick of things with the whole entire album. So I felt it was like a cool way to begin the journey, if you will.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And I like that you used the word journey, because I feel like that's what that song took me on.
Yeah, man, it's a very much. I think anybody, a musician, an artist, creative, always wants to put in part of themselves into what they do. And for me, with Beneficium and the whole album, We Belong in Hell Together, though it was heavy in content, was the initial, again, opening the gates to the rest of the album to really get an idea of like a starting point, if you will, of what you're about to hear and experience.
Oh yeah, because it even though it's track two,
Yeah.
it's the first one with lyrics, right? It's the first
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So after breaking down that song and learning the backstory on it and just how much pain there was behind it and just the entire story, is one of your goals with writing music, is it to share your experiences and let people know that they're not alone and you've gone through this too, or do you feel that it's more intuition and it's more of how you're feeling in that moment and that's what you write about? Like, are you trying to inspire other people or are you just telling your story, or like what is the goal of this song and your music and getting it out to the world?
So, good question. It's going to be half telling my story for others, maybe as a precautionary tale, but also to sound very selfish here, it's for myself. And the goals I gained from writing I Suicide was to A, continue to step out of my comfort zones with music, continue to really explore different horizons. If people listen to it, great, and they find a way to identify it, even better. Which with I Suicide, I've been approached by people who have identified with the album, which I love.
Wow, that's amazing.
But
That's kind of the best compliment you can get as a
oh
musician.
yeah, oh absolutely, dude. I recall an interaction. It was at the last show in this past December with somebody, and I won't say their name, leave them kind of out of this, but we talked briefly about I Suicide and how that was his album going through a a very rough time in his life, and him saying thank you for that. It was kind of like, in some ways I didn't feel I was deserving of a thank you because of the weights of the album, and the songs I wrote were like just straight depression and sadness. But for somebody, especially in their case, to come and approach me and say that they felt a comfort and that they were heard, it left me almost like speechless and again undeserving. But it felt good that they found a way to get through their hard times through it.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, like this podcast came out of necessity for me because music is what I turned to when I was going through something. And so, due to the fact that you can go through this and write about it in a way where it's not necessarily your story, like specific, but it's written in a way where other people can listen to it and interpret it in their life. Like I was just telling you, man. Like I'm reading some of these lyrics, and I'm like, this is exactly how I felt. This is what I felt in that way. This is what I felt, and that is the beauty of music. Like for you to watch Bride of Frankenstein and pull motivation for that, or to listen to Typo Negative and get inspiration for that. Like people are listening to you now, and like I can get inspiration from that.
Yeah, dude. And what's
Like that's honestly one of the best things that you can do. And now you're on a podcast talking about your story, and I really hope that this is able to get to other people too, because it's gotten to me, because I feel what you went through, and 2020 was a time when a lot of people were going through something. So being able to learn an artist on that personal level, that they went through that during this time, I mean, more respect to you, man, because I mean, just doing something creative at any time is difficult. So, since being able to do it at such a rough time, that shows your strength, dude. That
which I
shows, yeah, and that shows how strong you are internally. No matter, we love to feel the pain. We love to listen to, depressing music or whatever it is to feel normal or whatever. But honestly, we're still here. And that means something. That
exactly.
means we've gotten through everything that we've gone through. We've gone through the pain, the suffering, the love, the joy, and back again. The pain, the suffering, the joy, whatever. And that's just life, dude. You know, if it's not a relationship, it's a job. If it's not a job or relationship, it's a family member or a friend. Or there's always something. There's always something. There always
Well,
is.
it's funny.
And yeah,
And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say there's always something. And so if we can get through it with, you know, proven stories as yours and mine and other people, I mean, I think that's one of the best things that we can do to leave behind a legacy, to leave behind our stories, and hope that that somebody else finds comfort in it, which you've already experienced, and that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, man. And so I kind of was. I felt like I had an excitement when you listed off the emotions because the I want to have visuals with Beneficium too. So I ended up hiring Sergio Garcia, and Mick. I don't know his last name, unfortunately, for the photo shoot for the album, and the whole like the visual representation of the three women I have on the page on social media represents pain, despair, and suicide. So, like the three witches or the three emotions that I felt during that time when making this album. And what's really great is that, I did the makeup for them. I had help from Carly, one of the, well, actually, shout out to Carly, Annie, and Trinity for being, the witches in the album artwork. But I had some help making that vision come to life and kind of like the extreme, again, visuals, for lack of a better term, with that. And I was really happy that somebody else wanted to work with me to collab and make that, very dark topic a reality a part of it to kind of coincide with the music and the things. And especially going back earlier to, you asked me about a music video, Beauty in the Caskets, last track off the album. That track I felt was kind of like a more pop track out of all of them, so to say, which really isn't. But the last two tracks, Funerale Bizarro and Beauty in the Casket, was the next two tracks that were written freshly, not too long after I got out of that bad experience into the worst experience. And those came from the same place of pain, unfortunately, in a more dark, macabre way. But it helped me as an artist really kind of lock in the idea and the concept of you don't have to be nervous to be creative. You don't have to have this fear of, rejection or negativity from everybody. Just fucking do it,
Yeah.
Don't sit there and wallow in your shit. If you have something to say, then say it. And you don't have to hide yourself or hide your emotions or hide what you feel you want to say due to that. And without the visuals, without what I wrote and the help of others, Veneficium wouldn't have really became something that I would have thought, A, wouldn't have gotten a following, selfishly saying that, but B, would have resonated with folks too. So I'm very happy that with the the turmoil expressed, the way these were written, everything that was kind of portrayed and what I wanted to be portrayed was understood, dude. You know, it's very weird, but it's like, okay, like I made a statement and it was understood. And I thought, honestly, I had expectations of nobody wanted to listen to this shit. Nobody wanted to, give their time of day to put their headphones in or go in the car and jam to it, but they did, you know? So it was kind of cool, man.
So you might have just answered the next question, but if you want to elaborate on it at all, you're more than welcome to, of course. So my next question was going to be for anybody who is going through something in their life right now, who wants to use music as a form of release, like you did, what advice would you give them? And so you kind of, like I said, you kind of just answered it, and I love your answer when you said something like, just do it, just get it out there. Because I feel like for me, we can look at so many different factors and think, oh, this is too difficult, or there's too much involved, or no one's going to like it, no one's going to listen to
Yeah.
it. But if you just get it out there, the people who need it will find it.
So I want to show this first because it kind of leads into, like, I guess the explanation. But for me, it's cool. I can say I put out an album that is in physical copies. This is the last copy of the run, but this is the cassette tape for I Suicide. I know, retro and that kind of bullshit, but I told you earlier in the chat that this was my blood literally spilled on the cassette stickers.
Wow.
And now I'm
Wow.
revealing my secret, which I have been kept the secret for the last 3 years at this point. But in the haunt industry, there's a thing called permablood, and I had, and to save their namesake and their job, I had an individual draw blood from me, and then I mixed it into the batch of blood and then splattered. I think I had 25 copies made on every sticker, and I released it, I think, on Halloween of October 2023, I believe. It sold out in a day, which I was like surprised. I was
Wow.
shocked.
Good for
Uh,
you.
and why I say that's because I use it like a out of date platform of like music to put it onto, get a physical copy. I put out songs via Spotify. I put out things on all platforms, knowing that I don't want, following in some ways. I'm not looking for one. This is my expression to get it out there and my means to move forward. And it took a lot of digging to be okay with releasing something like this. And just the mentality of just put it out there, as simplistic as it is what I would say to anybody. You don't have to feel, you will in some ways, depending on the individual, but the nervousness and the sort of intimidation of putting out some sort of artistic expression is always going to be, a trial of its in and of itself. But if you were to kind of just say, it, I wrote this, I made this, I put it out there, this is who I am. If you don't like it, then, I mean, you, like, that to me says a lot more than having potentially this life-changing thing in some ways that people can attach themselves to, people can relate to, people can feel a sense of calmness while you're also getting that feeling too. If you don't give yourself a chance, if you don't give yourself an opportunity to put it out there, then at the end of the day, you're really only holding yourself back. And that's not fair to you. That's not fair to the time, the work, the physical, emotional pain you've gone through. Having that courage and having that will to just put out a part of yourself to the world is a very cathartic thing, you know?
So, question: do you feel that you would have thought this exact? So, everything you just said right now, do you think you would have felt that same way in that toxic relationship you were in when you wrote
Oh,
this?
no.
There you
No,
go.
no.
There you go.
That's,
And that's why it's important to get this out.
yeah, man.
Because it's not about the process of getting it out, it's just about getting it out.
Yes, dude.
Who will need it will find it. And the best, for me, whenever I think about my favorite musicians or my favorite artist, I automatically go to a person. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this person went through this, and that. And they were able to pull this out of that and still be here. That's enough for me to be like, I love this band or I love this artist. Because, and there's nothing against people who just listen to music because they like the music or, they like the beat or whatever. But for me, I get in the deep of it, dude. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
who is this singer? Why did they write this song? What is their inspiration to the song and what's their story? And for you to be able to sit here now, years later, to be able to feel this way about yourself and your art and give advice to people, dude, there's nothing better than that, man. There
I,
really isn't,
dude,
dude.
I agree,
There
man.
really isn't.
Holy shit. It's kind of funny because you've really, actually, I gotta say thank you right now because you kind of reignited that light inside me that, I did do this. I'm not one to, which Bonnie can tell you from the get go. I'm not one to speak about myself in a high regard in some ways. I'm getting working on that as days go by.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's not easy. It's not an easy process to do.
yeah, and to know though that you don't have to succumb to just the monotonous day to day life with your internal struggles. You don't have to succumb to those demons. That you have a means and an outlet to express yourself. For prime example, my favorite album of the year thus far is from Hangman's Chair, and the album is called Sad Diction. And that album is thus far like been the only release I've just listened to every day. It's sonically heavy, but it's one of those albums which I bet you can say the same too. That I dove in with the lyrics, with the musicianship, and everything
Yeah.
because I loved it that much that I want to understand where their heads are at. Especially the last track called "Healed," which please after today or tomorrow check that track out. The lyrics are just profound. Just for like a quick snippet, the lyric, the vocalist, and I kept they're all French, so I'm not really trying to pronounce their names. So I'll probably butcher that shit. But he says, "Are you healed?" It's a question mark, and it's like makes you think: Are you healed? Are you in a good spot right now? Do you feel like you made progress? It really it hit me hard. I recall getting that album on LP and jamming to that, and I locked in, dude. And it makes you kind of go back and say, what have you done this far to progress? What have you done this far to make life better, more manageable, more balanced? Corny as it sounds, and when he says, "Are you healed?" towards the end of the track, I could say yes. I put in the
For you.
time, the mental, challenges through therapy and communication and everything like that, and say yes, I'm healed. But I still remember those struggles. I still remember
Yeah,
that
you can't. You can't forget them, and I wouldn't want you to because it's because of these experiences that we have with what makes us who we are, and you never want to forget them. You
yeah.
don't. As hard as they are, you don't want to forget them because you can't. You can't forget them.
Yes,
You
man.
don't
I,
want
I
to.
I couldn't agree more, and I never really want to. Obviously, there are some things which I feel most can say that you wish you could forget, but unfortunately, they're going to follow you through your life. But it's a good reminder of
Yeah.
those past midnight thoughts of, all right, it happened this way, but we are not that person anymore. We are
Yeah.
moved past this, and we need to keep struggling forward, especially nowadays more than ever. Music's been my way of just turning off the world and aligning myself with what I need to maybe fix on, what I need to change, and what I need to feel at that time.
Yeah. And so, what I think you personally are a great example of is, your story as somebody who was in a relationship with someone you loved. It didn't really go the way that you wanted it to. And you found out that the person wasn't who you thought they were, and it led you down a really bad path. And it led you to self harm multiple times, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Take an attempt at your life and put you in a place that wanted to kill you for a couple days or however long it was. And now you're at a point where you're talking about the music that you wrote and the lyrics that you wrote, and that people have come up to you and have told you that your story or your song inspired them, and you're at a point where you're talking about a place where you would have never been at a couple years ago. And that alone, the whole point of this podcast.
If anything, first of all, I'm proud of you, dude. I know we're strangers at the end of the day, but I'm proud of you for getting through your shit. I'm proud of you for finding some sort of way to lift yourself back up, when you're in the pits of it. And to anybody that expresses themselves through music or again other creative outlets, of having the courage to put it out there. Coming from me after this album, and going back at different spots soon with Hood, but a more refined, more knowledgeable, more emotional, intelligent like level of creativity. I look back on this album and I feel, man, those were really horrible times that I thought no, I mean, I would never experience. I was naive. ignorant towards it, and very much kind of very stupid about what it really means to be hopelessly depressed.
Yeah.
And that I can look back on this cassette and the body of work that I did and I'm continuing to do and want to not become who I was, but be a better individual at the end of the day that I feel I can look in the mirror and smile at and not loathe, you know?
Yeah. And there's nothing better than that.
I agree, brother.
For those who are listening on Spotify or just listening to the visual, listening to the audio, um, definitely take a look at our Instagram because when I post this interview, I'll be posting a picture of that cassette so you can see it. It's pretty dope, pretty dope. And you're all sold out. You said you don't have any more of them.
Yeah, I have I think 3 more copies on Bandcamp. I got to double check, dude. But the first line, shout out to Jason for making these cassettes happen. They're all white, and actually I did a cool thing where I had 3 variant covers. So cover A is
Cool.
this one. It's me kind of being hung by Carly right here. Cover B is Carly, Trinity, and Annie, or like the 3 witches. And then cover C, shout out to Andy, which Bonnie knows Andy too. He made me a cover for the album, kind of more like black metal esque. So I put them up all on Bandcamp, and I woke up that day, and I think like within a few hours they're all sold out. So I was like,
Wow,
holy
within a few
shit, dude.
hours.
Yeah, and
Well, those listening, haha, you're screwed. You're not gonna get one.
I think I have like 3 more left.
Maybe on eBay you can find them, but not here. Get out of here. You're not gonna find it.
Well, I sold the last few at the show in December, and I think I have like I'll double check in the box, my merch box I have, but
Cool.
I think I have 2 or 3 left over from cover B, which is the 3 witches, and my poor mother, bless her soul, washing her son in her garage, splattering all these cassettes with blood, whatever, and I'm wearing like these gloves, that kind of shit, and she's like, you know, bless your heart for raising 3 boys into metal and punk, and
Hell yeah,
kind of bad.
dude! Shout out to the moms, man. I
Yeah,
mean,
my mom.
if anybody listened to our first episode of Mikey Massacre, I asked him, I'm just like, what was your reaction? What was the reaction of your song that you put out? And he said, my mom loved it. Dude, our moms are the best.
They are, brother. Holy
Seriously,
shit,
man.
dude.
Oh my god, dude.
I recall like, walking into the house with these gloves on, with blood on them, and the perma blood mixed together. She's like,
Yeah.
"How was it? It was fine. Thanks for
Yeah,
asking."
yeah, it was fun. You want one? Here's a cassette, mom.
Yeah. So I mean, shout out to her, man, and a quick shout out to
Cool.
my. He passed away when I was young, but my old man died from cancer, and that was one of the guys that.
Shout out to him. Shout
Yes,
out.
yes. Cancer's son of a bitch, and I was very happy that I had the time I had with him on this world, and both my parents and especially my mother, after my dad died, raising 3 boys, and taking care of us, and then us with our quirks of horror or like gruesomeness or punk or loud music. It, to share a fun story. So what type of negative? I got her in type of negative finally because they covered the song Summer Breeze, I believe. And we're out back one day in the past. We used to hang out and have a drink and just talk life. And I put it on with the intentions of turning it off, like, oh, she's going to hate this shit. But I played it and she loved it, dude. And then they also covered another band I love, Oceans of Slumber. Shout out to them, to Dauber, to Cammy. Congrats on the new baby. They covered Nights in White Satin. I forgot the artist's name. Moody Blues, I think it was. Love that too, a heavier version of that. And she has been nothing but supportive of all of us and all of our journeys into the alternative scene, that kind of shit. And my mom, just thank you for, during this time especially more than anything. And when I finally talked to her about this, I broke down and just gave me a hug and said, thank you for talking to me about it, So to the moms, shout out to you.
And no matter what you're going through, man, I mean, just talking to you personally, I mean, always remember your mom is, if you weren't here, your mom would be devastated too.
Oh yeah. Man, it's very, if anything, out of all we discussed tonight, out of everything through the really dark and the hopeful side of life, I would like people to take away one thing is that there is always somebody that will listen to you. There is always somebody that you can love and respect and appreciate that. Doesn't matter what type of day, doesn't matter what's going on, they will listen to
Yeah.
you. And do not feel like you are being a burden. Do not feel like you are wasting their time. Express yourself and speak about it. Don't feel like you are in this bubble that no one can ever penetrate because you don't want to see them at your darkest.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, when I woke up in the hospital after what we talked about, the first person that I remember seeing was my mom. It was in a whole different state, whole different
mm-hmm.
everything, and she flew out and she was there. She was the first person to give me a hug after all that. So, shout out to the mom too.
Yeah, man, for sure, brother. Oh, man. Jeez.
So
What's up, dude?
so what's next for you, dude?
A lot of shit. So I'm currently in the process of recording Hood. That is kind of like the more black metal, depressive suicidal black metal continuation of Beneficium. Those is dead. This is already in the past. This is a continuation of part two of what happened into that first long journey of despair. So that's being recorded right now with my buddy Mark. Fire of the Devil. We are in the process of writing new tunes. We are trying to release a full-length album in the near future, which we're black metal again, if you're into that. And then with the new project, again, I can't really talk about it right now that much because there's a lot more details that need to be kind of hashed out. But that's coming up soon, which my brother Phil on drums and I always had this vision of making like for a tease, if you will, a gothic female fronted doom metal band. And we had an opportunity finally that has risen that him and I are, giddy about in some ways. So that's happening soon. And then I run a metal fest at a brewery at Chicago Ridge of a year four. So keep an eye on that soon. Doing that. And then as far as myself, trying to be more proactive with getting ideas written down, anything I can for music wise, and put it out there to other musicians too. Branch out, see where things go. Ultimately, the bigger plan is to finish all these recordings, these albums, put them out there, and then see what happens next, man. So yeah.
So if somebody wants to find you and your work and all the different projects you have going on, so I know you've got a couple different things going on. Where is the best place for someone to go to? Is it your Instagram? Is it a website? Is it Facebook? Like where's the best Spotify, iTunes? What is it? Where's the best place for someone to go to find you, or the best couple of places?
The Instagram, that's my main, I guess, social communication. I'm always posting stories on projects I'm doing or posting random shit here and there. So that's probably the best spot.
What what is that handle?
Lowercase Karma Code 95799, all one word. You can find me there. For the Black Metal Project, Fire of the Devil, we have an Instagram. It's just if Fire of the Devil, you can find us there. Veneficium, though, it's not really active anymore because the project is done. You can find me on Instagram there with Veneficium759. And Hood, once that's done and I have some merch made, I'll leave it at that. That will have another Instagram page, stuff like that too. But my main source is Instagram for my main page. If you would like to listen to Beneficium My Suicide, it's on Spotify, Apple. I know I also had some YouTube videos out there too as well. But yeah, I would say Instagram is my way to go, man.
Hell yeah. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Heavy Mental Breakdown, where we break down a song with the artist for a more in-depth look behind the meaning. And this one was, no exception to anything. This was probably the heaviest song we've listened to so far. So, Tom, thank you so much for sharing that story, dude. And I do feel like people will be able to relate to it And you just know that you, Tom, and anybody listening, like, you're not alone in this. A lot of us go through a lot of messed up stuff in life, and the whole reason for the podcast is to be able to show that music is one of those ways to let that out. And even if you don't know how to play music or don't know the process, the most important thing to do is just to start. Start writing, start pick up a guitar and just learn some riffs. Learn, do something to get yourself out of that mindset, because this story proves that it helps you and it helps others. So check out iSuicide and all the other projects that Tom has with Veneficium,
Yeah, there you go.
and Doom and everything else he's got going. Dude, Tom, we appreciate it so much, dude. I know it's not easy talking about this stuff, but you did, and I hope that it reaches somebody. And that's why we're here, man. We want to leave this earth maybe just a little bit better than we found it, by sharing our stories and our experiences and helping people get through it. And metal and music, rock and roll is a great way to do that, man. So thank you so much for doing that.
And thank you too, brother, and thank you to anybody who listens to this. And please, everybody, check out Heavy Mental Breakdown Podcast. This dude and his team, whoever you have, are doing really great fucking work. And I really hope to see your channel and your podcast and what you do grow, because it's a really beautiful thing for you to have that ability and that outreach to want to have a platform for anybody to speak out about what they went through with writing their music, man. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. This is another episode of Heavy Mental Breakdown. Got another episode coming soon. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.